Good morning. Welcome to another Second Breakfast podcast. My name is Philip Duvall. I'll be joined briefly by Andy Roth. We're going to talk about a wonderfully, entertainingly not so. We're going to talk about a very mediocre film today. It's called Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. It is the next installment in our Project Melway series. Don't forget the Gibsonian Institute has enlisted Andy and I in watching every single Mel Gibson film that he has acted in chronological order. And we have finally reached this really interesting precipice. We've gotten to Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, the last movie before Lethal Weapon, his great American breakout role, the great moment in his career when things start to kind of break and he becomes an American icon. So we've watched this movie today. We talk about it. It's not a great movie, folks, but I think the conversation is good, I hope. I think, Andy and I actually have more fun talking about bad movies than some of the good movies that we talk about. So whether you've ever seen this movie or not, whether you ever care to or not, jump on in. We talk about post-apocalyptic stuff. We talk about Tina Turner. We talk about Mel Gibson. We talk about weird, random choices in filmmaking. And then we get really, really excited about things to come. All on this week's installment of Project Melway.
So I gather that you're not as much of a fan of the latest Project Melway movie as I was.
I was really excited for this one, Andy. I was really excited. I was hoping that... what was funny is last week we were like, oh, we're out of the dregs. We are not out of the dregs, man. Now, next week is Lethal Weapon, which is one of Mel Gibson's 2 or 3 best movies.
Sure.
I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about that. And I was excited for this because even though I had heard many people say that the third Mad Max movie, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, was not a great film, I was still excited about the return to Mad Max and Tina Turner. Two men enter, one man leaves.
Yeah, and that's right. And also excited for anything involving something that is named Thunderdome, because that's probably going to be fun.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong with something named
The
Thunderdome?
answer is everything, and here's the deal. George Miller, the guy who wrote and directed Mad Max and Road Warrior, Mad Max 2, Electric Boogaloo, has really specific skills and talents, but at the same time has a lot of flaws.
I agree.
The brilliance of Mad Max and Road Warrior is that they are very small scale. I don't mean small time. I don't mean... I mean it in the best sense possible. Bare bones, like...
Simple, not dumb. They are small stories told with the lack of complexity that will bring out how great they are.
Ruthless efficiency of filmmaking and storytelling. And there's a
also
sense
known as a really low budget, but sure, go ahead.
Fine.
Right, yeah.
Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome is bigger in every way,
Yes.
and that is its undoing.
Yes.
Because all of the flaws in Mr. Miller's oeuvre are exploited, are blown up and inflated, so to speak.
Yes. Everything is bigger except its goodness. Yes.
You have specific things you want to say about this movie.
I do. I want to start by saying this. I don't think I disliked this movie as much as you do, and that is like the definition of damning with faint praise. So let me turn it around. I enjoyed watching this movie, and let me tell you why. Because, and I'm just now realizing that this is what I did as I'm saying it to you, I very quickly stopped watching it as a Mad Max movie.
Yeah, that's helpful because it doesn't. Well, no, it does follow certain tropes of the. I mean, it's in certain ways. Oh no, it's in certain ways a retelling of the last Mad Max movie.
Yeah, right. That's true, but
and it's got Mel Gibson. It's got the same cast and the same director, kind of.
But let's talk about that. Okay. I'm going to talk about the thing that drives me crazy, the thing that absolutely drives me insane. As you will recall, I am a blithering idiot for the opening and closing narration of The Road Warrior.
For those of you who are just catching up with Project Melway and who have not been around for all of it, first of all, what's up, Johnny Come Lately? Actually, we'll take you just as you are. We're fine with that. Our standards are ridiculously low. But Andy, if you go back and watch the Mad Max 2 Roadrunner episode of our Project Melway adventure,
the worst.
Andy almost starts crying when he's talking about the narration of the Road Warrior.
Yeah, I want to be clear. Listeners and viewers, he is the worst not for saying that I almost started crying. I'm fine with that. I'm saying for blaspheming by calling it Mad Max 2 Roadrunner. You are the worst. That is why you're the worst. Continue.
Guilty as charged. Listen, I try not to let the truth get in the way of a good story, okay?
That's fair. No, that's fair. And I...
You're lucky I didn't call it Mad Max 2 Electric Boogaloo again.
So right,
I might call it that a third and fourth time during this podcast.
That's what I think. That's what I think when we're doing one of these. I'm lucky. That's what I'm thinking.
You should feel lucky. I feel lucky every time I make it through another Mad Max movie or another Mel Gibson flick. Let's be honest.
Fair enough. So one of the things in this final narration, in the closing narration, the band of survivors that Max helps escape, they make it to the coast, and they become, in the words of the narration, the Great Northern Tribe. But in the meantime, before they do that, they find a new leader because their leader gets killed in the escape. And their leader is this just amazing comic relief character known as the Gyro Captain. He has this little seat it's like a helicopter with nothing but the blades and a seat. And he's amazing, and he's a sniveling coward, but he steps up during the final fight. And
he's also wily.
It's true. It's true. He is wily. And I love that because he falls in love or in lust, frankly, with one of the girls because a woman, but she's
how dare you suggest that their love was anything but pure?
Yeah, indeed. One of the young women in the oasis that they escaped from, and he tries to get her to leave with him, and she's like, no, I'm going to stay. So he decides to stay, and that's how he steps up, and he becomes their chief. And then in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, and this is what bugs me about Thunderdome. And then in Thunderdome, the same character is shown with a son. And so far, okay, cool. But he's not at the coast. He's still in the outback, where Max is. And he and his son are flying a plane that, and they have this it's not a con because there's no it's not wily.
No, they're just thieves.
They're just thieves.
He's clearly not the same character.
He's clearly not the same character, but he is the
same actor
who's very distinctive looking. He's very distinctive looking.
Well, yeah, no, and this is the thing is he's very distinctive looking, and who they treat in a very similar way as they do is the same. He's the same character type as the last movie.
To the point where he's still a pilot.
And on top of that, they do all these things where when he sees Max, although we never hear the name Max at all in the movie.
Not once.
We never hear Mad Max being called Mad Max, so we could maybe not. They even at one point call him the Man with No Name, which if you are a fan of the Man with No Name trilogy, the Clint Eastwood movies, full of dollars, a few dollars more, and Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, should make you slightly. This movie was so derivative.
Yes, not as good as any of the Man with No Name trilogy movies. Not as good as any of them. Also, not as good as...
It clearly came out in the aftermath of the Star Wars boom, because it's got a lot of Star Wars imagery and a lot of Return of the Jedi imagery. That's right.
Yes.
But anyways, so this guy comes in, and he's the same character type as the guy he plays in the last movie. And when he sees Mad Max's character, he does this look of recognition, which makes you totally think it's the same guy. Except it's just clearly not the same guy.
It's clearly not the same guy, and it's look...
Terrible idea.
The actor in question is Bruce Spence, who we have talked about before on this podcast. I love the guy. I think he's great. Hire a different actor, George Miller. Right. Hire somebody else. It is infuriating because it muddles. It doesn't just ruin even if it's just for a second, it doesn't just ruin the movie you're watching. It ruins an entirely different movie, and that's the mark of something that's a terrible decision.
Right. And it's
Right?
it's like what are you, Cloud Atlas?
Indeed.
You haven't seen that yet, have you?
I haven't, but I know the conceit.
Oh,
yes.
Lord Almighty! I did not know the conceit going into that movie. I think it speaks volumes to Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome that we have spent the last 10 minutes talking about other movies.
That's fair. That's fair. Things I like about it. I like the ideas behind it. That's why I say I stopped thinking about it as a Mad Max movie. It is a perfectly serviceable and very interesting post-apocalyptic science fiction story.
I think let me disagree respectfully.
Please do.
I think it has a lot of elements that are very, very interesting. I don't think it's an interesting story. I don't think it's well done because it's somewhat incoherent. What actually is supposed to happen? Again, the benefit of the last two movies is it's like this is what's trying to happen. This is what we want to accomplish. We accomplish it, or we don't accomplish it. But you know what the whole point is.
Right.
This movie, it's not clear why anything is anything. And that's really problematic. But as usual, the visuals are great. As usual, the weird characters and the strangely hunky homoerotic characters are very vivid. As usual, he's got very distinctive points of view from a stylistic point of view, from a camera point of view, and the post-apocalyptic genre is something he's interested in. Mm-hmm. But the story itself just doesn't. So what are the parts that you like? Talk to me about what's interesting to you.
Well, here's the deal. I am disappointed, as always, to find that I agree with you. You said the same thing. You said what I mean. I think the ideas are great. I think the execution is, frankly, lacking in just any...
Don't be disappointed. Let's just pretend that I agreed with you.
It's only slightly less disappointing.
Still hate myself.
Slightly less shame. So I think. The one thing you left out, elements that are good, or in this case, great. I honestly think that the Thunderdome action set piece is amazing. I just like. You disagree with me? Oh, you disagree with me?
I'm thinking.
Crap.
Okay, they put these two guys in this dome of thunder. And
that's already misleading. There's no actual thunder. It's more
It's more of an emotional thunder, and they're like no rules. But then they attach them to harnesses. What? Mm-hmm. Very weird. I'm not against it, mind you, but I was like, harnesses?
They're attached to bungees, and they have attached to the dome weapons.
It's fascinating. It's definitely fascinating. It would not be the ultimate way. I guess the thing for me is like, I don't know. I'm not sure how that necessarily makes you better at fighting.
I don't think it necessarily does. I think it makes it a better show. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the thing that Kurt Russell has to do in Escape from New York, where he...
Haven't seen it.
Oh...
I know.
Oh, well,
I'm impoverished. I'm cinematically impoverished.
Second Breakfast Nation, this was going to be a good podcast.
I'm like, if Sarah McLachlan should make a commercial that's like an hour long about me. That's how sad my film career is.
So basically, Escape from New York has a fight scene that is very similar, like found weapons and stuff like that, but it's in a boxing ring, right?
Okay.
And it's awesome because Escape from New York is awesome and Kurt Russell is awesome. The guy he's fighting is awesome, but it doesn't go like 3 dimensions and like.
No, I agree. It's fascinating, and it's got a great reveal that ends up meaning not very much.
It's true. That's true.
What else do you want to say about this? I have a couple thoughts.
I think Tina Turner's actually quite good. I think she's effective as Auntie Entity, who is the leader of Bartertown. Yeah, it's kind of a silly name, but I'm
all
okay
the names in this movie are terrible.
Yes,
she is fine in the film. She does a fine job.
Yeah.
Also, for the first time in my life,
yes,
kind of found her attractive.
Nice. Well done.
Although she didn't have any romantic scenes with Mel Gibson, so
that's true.
But she's in a Mel Gibson movie and more attractive, which goes to my Mel Gibson New York Yankees theory.
That's true. I mean, I'm done. I'm happy to talk about what you wanted to talk about, but I mean, there's nothing else that sticks out in my mind. It's not a great
No,
movie, you
the
know.
Tina Turner Mel Gibson, like the Tina Turner thing, like there is an element to her that is attractive in this movie, which was confusing to me and fantastic. I'm interested in the idea that the story over and over again leaves Max alone. And this idea that his job is to help others, but to be successful helping others, he has to fail.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Twice, he is, if I can get highfalutin and biblical, twice
dude,
he's Moses. He is allowed to lead people to the land. He is not allowed to enter the land himself.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and in
But
the more successful movie, The Road Warrior, you can make the case that it is because of his past sins. Here,
yeah,
it's, which obviously completes the Moses parallel. Here, he just can't
here
stay in the flame.
it's actually more Chris. It's more Jesus-y kind of because it's more of a Christ figure because he makes the choice to self-sacrifice.
Nice.
And he does it full well knowing that it means that he doesn't get to go where they're going, so to speak. Or he does it for the sake of others. He lays down his life for his friends. Although he doesn't die, spoiler, I don't care, whatever. I'm like really interested in not giving away spoilers if the movie's good, but if the movie's not good, I'm like, and then in minute 27, this guy gets shot. I don't care.
By the way, viewers, pretty much everything we're discussing, except for the last 40 seconds of the movie, is in the first half of the movie. There is an entire plot that we haven't talked about. He gets exiled from Bartertown.
It's the Endor plot. It's the Ewok plot. He goes to the Ewoks, except he gets rescued by little children. He gets rescued by Jawas, and then it turns out that they're Ewoks. They're totally Ewoks. They live in their own little paradise next to a river, and they wear the funny Ewok clothes, except they're people. And they have this really weird prophecy that's completely...
I really can't deal with how nerdy you are right now. He gets rescued by Jawas who turn out to be Ewoks. I mean, are you serious? Are you serious?
I feel like when you call me nerdy, like the crown is in the mail. Like the crown is in the mail. That's what I feel like when you say that.
That's
the
fair.
thing about my references are, like, the great thing about the first Star Wars trilogy, I still hate saying first Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah,
the great thing about the first Star Wars trilogy is that every single person knows what I'm talking about. People who don't like nerdy stuff are like, oh yeah, Ewoks, got it.
That's fair. If I could respond in Klingon, I would. I can't, so I'm not going to. That would be fun.
I know a guy who was like, this was back in 2010, who was like, oh yeah, you like Lord of the Rings? Well, I recorded myself reading the entire trilogy if you'd ever want to listen to it on audio tape.
No.
Yeah, and I was like, he's like, oh yeah, he speaks Elvish. Oh, I speak Elvish. First of all, shut up. By the way, I mean, he's a good cat. I don't know that he watches the show. I doubt that he does. But if he does, like, I have no problem saying, one, that I like you, but two, that's ridiculous. I can't believe you ever did that. Like, I don't feel guilty saying this. Like, come on. If you ever feel like listening to my voice for 100 hours. I don't.
But I appreciate the offer.
There's two voices I want to hear for 100 hours, okay? One of them is mine, because I'm ridiculously vain, and the other one is Bob Dylan. I don't. Other than that, everybody else has a time.
Everyone else.
Everyone else has a time limit.
Sure.
Sinatra, time limit.
Sure. So honestly, I think we might be done. I will say this though. This might help. Because it is, if nothing else, I think it's a failure as a movie, but I think it's an interesting failure. I'm not sorry I watched it. Again, I had seen it, but it had been probably at least 2 decades.
Mel Gibson punches a woman in the face.
That's true. That's true.
If you want to get into like the foreshadowing of Mel Gibson's life, there's a moment. What? No, I mean part of Project Melway. We think about like how the Mel character is. I think it's the first time we've seen violence towards women in the.
Except for when his wife gets killed.
No, but I mean where he propagates violence.
Where
the good guy punches a girl in the face, I guess to save her.
Right. Much the same way that he shoots Diane Keaton in the chest to save her.
Oh, you're right. It's not the first time we see violence against
Yeah,
women.
but
Although she does ask for it. He also, back to that movie, shoots her in the chest point blank and she lives.
Right. Yeah.
You need to learn how to shoot people in the chest.
You're
terrible at it.
You're doing it wrong.
So bad.
So, well, if viewers, listeners, if you are interested in watching this movie, just don't, first off, see the other two Mad Max movies first. Not because you need the story, but because they're just significantly better movies and don't waste your life. But after watching the first two Mad Max movies, if you want to watch this movie, honestly, I think you will enjoy it more if you just don't think of it as a Mad Max movie at all, which is helped by the fact that they never call him Max once. Phil said that earlier. He is right. He is literally the man with no name, which is infuriating on other levels, as we discussed. But I kind of want to stop talking about this movie.
That's so sad. You were really excited to talk about it, and it's like it all got deflated.
No, it's not deflated. I just said what I wanted to say, and it doesn't really deserve a lot of. It doesn't deserve a lot of our words. It just doesn't.
The only thing else I will say
Please.
is that I would be interested in later on having a conversation where we talk. I'd love to do like a series or a long form where we talk about how people with mental retardation and developmental disabilities are treated in films, and what each portrayal says about them, and talking about this movie in that conversation, because there's a character in the movie who it turns out is, I'm guessing, Down syndrome. That's what it looks like. And I'll leave it at that because it's not actually a major. It's not something that's developed. But I'm interested if we were gonna. I'd love to have like a conversation where we're talking about 3 or 4 different movies, maybe 5 or 6 different movies with characters who have developmental disabilities and retardation, and really look like. So what does this say?
No,
what does it do there?
That's not a bad idea.
And to that extent, I agree with you that there are elements of this movie that are super interesting, and I think there's a lot there. It doesn't give me a lot of hope for the fact that they're remaking Mad Max, by the way, with the same guy at the helm.
Right,
I don't have a lot of hope.
But the cast is amazing, so I'm willing to. I'm at this point, I'll watch Tom Hardy do anything. And Charlize Theron is in it. I'll watch many of the people do anything.
Right, it could be George Miller's version of The Phone Book. It's going to be an interesting movie no matter what.
That's true. And again, we will see. This movie had interesting ideas. They just weren't executed well. So if for no other reason, I'll watch it for that.
Yes.
Moving on, the next 3 weeks. Set your shoes, everybody, because we got some stuff that you might actually want to see on your own. Not that
my gosh,
everyone wouldn't want to see, for example.
Follow along, for God's sake. Watch movies with us.
Yes, because we're past things like Attack Force Zero now. Was that the name of that movie? Anyway.
Attack Force Z.
Z. Sorry, I was reading something about Zero Dark 30 earlier. Thank you. Attack Force Z. Next 3 weeks. Next week, Lethal Weapon. The first. The Titan. The one that started an empire. Lethal Weapon. Then, Tequila Sunrise. Awfully fun movie. Following that, Lethal Weapon, wait for it, 2.
The magic is back. That was the tagline.
I remember that. When you said that, I remembered that on the poster. No, totally. So, Lethal Weapon, Tequila Sunrise, Lethal Weapon, Tequila Sunrise, Lethal Weapon 2. That's what we got.
Lethal Weapon 2 is one of the 2 or 3 greatest sequels of all time.
I agree with you. I agree with that.
And the other thing I want to say is, and I'm going to look more into this before next week, between this movie and Lethal Weapon, Mel Gibson took 2 years off of his acting career.
Fascinating.
I know.
That is fascinating.
I know. Well, I'm fascinating.
Nah.
I'm just kidding. I didn't mean it. But he's fascinating, endlessly so. That's why the Gibsonian Institute has asked us to do this project. And I'm going to figure out what Mel's deal was between 1985 and 1987.
That sounds great. And while he's off to do that in the Gibsonian archives, I am going to bid you a fond farewell. This has been another Second Breakfast Podcast installment of Project Melway. I'm Andy Roth. That's Phil Duvall. We'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.
Cheerio.